All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the MSMF Wealth Management Client Podcast. Still need to get a catchier name for that. But it is October 2025, and I am joined as usual by my good buddy Cody Redding. Cody, how are you?
I'm doing great, Mark.
How is the crew at home?
They are crazier than ever.
Barbies galore.
We do have Barbies. In fact, our 10-month-old now likes Barbies, so that's great.
Oh my God, it is beautiful, beautiful. And Mr. Rehkemper, how are you?
Good.
How was your brood at home?
Similar, very energetic. Lots of soccer right now with Bennett. So.
Swarm ball at his age.
Yeah, that's right.
Swarm ball, yeah. Have you learned the subtle art of taking a Tervis with an adult beverage in it to the sideline?
No, but I'll add that one. Yeah, that's good.
I got all sorts of tips if you need
About
it.
at that point.
I've lived it, so we'll talk.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for joining us today. What I thought we'd do, I know we introduced last time, talked a little bit about life insurance and the like. I'd like to broaden the conversation today and really call that defending your wealth. As you guys know, the work we do with our clients always starts with kind of what we call the three financial cornerstones. That's creating, growing, and preserving a nest egg, right? It's creating a strategy for lifetime income and retirement. And what I'll say the third would be is defending your wealth, right? And there are a variety of things that you guys know that we talk to our clients about as it relates to defending their wealth and what would cause that and a disruption to that. And it's, premature death, which we talked about a little bit last time. It's losing our ability to earn an income, as well as potentially a chronic healthcare event well into our retirement. We're going to talk about those three today. There are some other ones. Certainly you have to defend your property from damaging your long-term wealth. There's liability issues, which we're going to cover a little bit at the end, and then how we distribute our wealth. But I want to talk really about premature death, the disability or the loss of the ability to earn an income, and something that impacts our healthy aging, a chronic healthcare event today. So to start with that, I'm going to start with you, Kraig, as the, what do we nickname you?
Stat boy.
The sobering stat boy. So
right.
sobering stat boy is
Yeah.
going to give us some perspective about why we should be concerned with this. And I think, Kraig, and you'll lead into this, some of these things are very obvious, but the deeper we dig in terms of defending our wealth and what might cause us to expose our wealth, some of these statistics aren't ones that are normally thrown out at us every day. And they are, to be fair, sobering stat boy, sobering.
Yes,
So
they
with
are.
that, fire away.
All right. So, I'll dig into it. So obviously we talked about life insurance a little bit last time. Most people are familiar with the risk around that. The big one is actually disability. That one, it doesn't get talked about a whole lot. So going through these stats, it was really eye-opening for us. Obviously, we'd seen some of these stats, but just to kind of put it in perspective. So your risk of dying before age 65, for a 25-year-old, it's 10%. For a 35-year-old, 16%. For a 45-year-old, 22%. And 55, 30%.
Wait. So you're telling me age 45, roughly one out of four.
Yeah.
And at 55, 1 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those are,
I thought
Yeah.
that was a lot
pretty
higher
high.
than I expected.
Yeah.
that's pretty high.
And then when you look at disabled, it's actually, I thought this was even more eye-opening. It's roughly double across the board. So at 25, your risk of being disabled for more than 90 days, 25 to 30%, 30 to 35% odds, 45, 30% odds, and then 55, 25% odds of being disabled for longer than 60 days.
Yeah.
Or 90 days.
Just to comment on that, because we were talking before we started, way back when I first got in the business, that we always called the risk of disability kind of the forgotten risk. Mm-hmm. And at younger ages, it really doesn't even out until you're in over age 50. You're generally speaking across the board, you're twice as likely to become disabled before you're 65 than you are to die. And we all know the risk of dying, and Cody, you're going to talk through how we assess that, but that's downright scary to me. Right. Twice as likely, and I don't think any of us realize it.
Yeah, and you can argue, if you become disabled, you still have to pay for your expenses. So,
right.
As opposed to if you're gone, that's less expensive. So it's very, very important.
Right.
Yeah. So that's the disability portion. The other big one that we obviously talk with our clients a lot about is long-term care. Very popular with the aging population we have in this country. So again, just some eye-popping stats here. So your chance of needing long-term care after the age of 65, 70%. The average duration of a long-term care stay is 2 to 3 years. And then with that, obviously the biggest one that comes with that is the cost of long-term care. Again, this is something we talk about often with our clients. So just for home health care, the average monthly cost is $6,483, and this is from Genworth, who is a long-term care insurance provider. The average monthly cost of assisted living community, this is the median cost in the U.S., is $5,900. And then for a semi-private room nursing care, the median cost in the U.S. is $9,277. So obviously,
Cool
large
10 grand.
expenses there. Yeah,
Cool 10
something that we
grand
definitely need
a
to plan
month.
for. A month,
Not a year.
Right.
120,000 a year.
So a couple things let me ask you real quick. So, I mean, I view when someone retires, right? I mean, the risk of disability is the risk that you can't earn an income. So when you retire, you're not earning income anymore. So the risk of disability kind of morphs into the risk of needing long-term care services.
Correct.
Right. So we're shifting from one to the other. So generally speaking, if you have disability insurance, and Cody's going to talk about that, you drop that when you retire, and you're really looking more at transitioning to protecting with long-term care insurance, right?
Right, yeah, and that's why most disability, obviously, they usually end at age 65. And so,
Right.
you, to your point, you transfer that risk from one large cost. Okay, you got that one out of the way, but now we got to look to another long-term.
Right.
Potential
And
cost.
70% of people
70.
over 65 are going to need some type of long-term care services.
Correct, some type of care.
Okay, that's a pretty high percentage.
Yep, you're welcome.
And you know that the numbers, you read off, I believe, national averages from the Genworth Care Scout.
Yeah, national
recent
median
study.
cost.
Right,
Yep.
and I can just tell you, we were talking before we got on camera, that in the last several months of my dad's life, when he went into memory care, it was a cool $11,000 a month. And what I was saying was, my dad did not get $11,000 a month of care because my dad did not need a lot of care. He wasn't intellectually there, didn't move around, wasn't running around the streets. I mean, sedentary, laying there. They probably checked on him once every hour or two, and to me, it sucks. That's what it costs. Part of that's a technical term. But I just don't think it. I mean, he was getting when he was under the lower level, the assisted living. He was getting a lot more care at $9,000 a month than he was at 11, and it's sad that's the way the system is.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's only going up with the kind of inflation we have. So.
Yeah, and you got a whole bubble of people with 11,000 people retiring every day. It's more and more people. When you got 70% of those folks will need covered long-term care services, where are they going to get it? How are they going to get it? Which is a bigger problem in this conversation. But yeah, sobering stat boy. Okay.
But luckily, we get to talk about how to plan for it.
Okay. Any other great news for us?
No, I think that's enough for today.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the data because, as we always say, stats don't lie, and it is sobering. But that's why we talk to clients about it. And Cody, I'm going to call you Mr. Sunshine
All right.
as opposed to sobering
I like
stat
that a
boy.
lot more. Yeah.
There are solutions, but I guess I would ask first if you could share with everyone, and I know, and our clients know, what there are mathematical ways to figure out what the need is to offset assets. How do we cover the shortage with insurance?
Right.
But just kind of back of the envelope, maybe you could walk everyone through for what to look for, to how to assess their current, life insurance coverage, disability, and then for those folks that have retired, they're protecting against long-term care services. So give us a little bit of practical way to look at it, and then maybe talk about how we approach solutions with our clients.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, from a, let's go through a scenario that what if you die prematurely? Because that's obviously on the top of the mind when you talk about risk assessment and how it can kind of upset the apple cart for your financial strategy or game plan that you put in
Sure.
place. Obviously, number one is to think about, okay, the loss of income over that period of time, right? and certainly what kind of debts you have. So a lot of people, if they die prematurely, want to at least take care of the debt situation,
Sure.
to leave their significant other, spouse, without the burden of that bill. But a lot of things that people don't also think about are, the kids, and especially if they're younger, what kind of weddings would you want to pay for, maybe? The cost of college, cars for them, just all that kind of stuff that is not on paper now, but it's going to be on paper in the future.
Right.
So, and that number can add up pretty quickly
Right.
to be quite significant, quite large. So when we go through a full financial plan, those are the things, that we certainly try to point out, well, what if this, and incorporate that in there, and then we can backtrack to, how much life insurance coverage you actually need with
Right.
that. And, certainly it's not to make your significant other, super wealthy if you pass away. It's to make life go on try to make life go on as seamless as possible is the whole goal of it.
Yeah, and again, years ago when I first got in the business, Tom Mengel said, hey, any type of insurance coverage, but life insurance, it's not about making people rich. It's about making sure they're not poor.
Correct.
And you really look at it that way, and you walk through those 3 or 4 things that you mentioned. It's pretty easy to get your arms around. Okay, I'm looking good. Maybe we should have a conversation. I really got to have a conversation. So I think that's a good framework that you walk through there. That's great.
Yeah, and then transitioning, what we talked about, what people don't really risk assess for is, and what you're twice as likely most happen is what happens if I become disabled. Especially over a 90-day period or longer. That's long-term disability, and it's kind of crazy that for someone that's in their 30s or 40s, a third at least will have some sort of 90-day or longer disability that it happens, which I'm still trying to wrap my head around.
The statistics are ridiculous. I mean,
yeah, so
sobering.
Yeah, obviously the number one factor you have to associate with that is loss of income, right? And we've been through stats with this. A lot of people don't have 90 days worth of cash set aside to cover if that disability happens. And if you have a 33% or 33% chance of it, that's why it's really important to make sure you got that cash set aside and also have disability on top of it.
Absolutely.
Now, luckily for a lot of people, there are, through your work, there are group benefits that you have access to. And we just happen to be in open enrollment period right now.
It's open enrollment.
Yeah. Now is the time that you want to take a look at that. And if you're not enrolled into your long-term disability and short-term disability, it would be the time to do it. It's very inexpensive. You usually don't have to go through any underwriting. And, it's basically filling out a form and you have it.
Right.
Because, like I said, 33% chance is pretty high.
I mean, dollar for dollar, it's the single best employee benefit that's out there from my perspective.
Correct. And on top of that, too, going through your open enrollment, a lot of places have group life coverage, and it's usually pretty inexpensive to get. And that goes for all the group stuff. It's usually a lot less expensive to get through group than it is to go into the private marketplace. Not all the time, and there's pluses and minuses to it both. But for the majority, for the best bang for your buck, get it through your work.
Absolutely.
And we could absolutely take a look at it and run outside quotes to cover that. And then we talked about, okay, well, you transition from the risk of dying to the risk of going into a long-term care facility or needing some long-term care assistant help. And there's ways to pass on that risk, and that's through long-term care coverage, right? So insurance, use an insurance company to provide that coverage. And certainly, probably what a lot of people are familiar with is your traditional long-term care. It's the use it or lose it type thing.
Right.
So,
like car insurance.
You're happy that you have it if you have to make a claim. But yeah, those annual premiums, if you don't ever use it, they kind of go out the window. But it is also a big leverage on your money and with a 70% chance, pretty high likelihood that someone in the household is going to need that,
Yep.
right? And those are still certainly out there in the marketplace. Then you have kind of hybrid policies to where you're blending life insurance and being able to use that death benefit for while you're living for long-term care
Sure.
services. Now, certainly that's a lot more expensive because you're going to use it in some sort of way or the other. But a lot of people we are trending to go towards that because of not giving up that premium and
Right.
kind of, essentially throwing it out the window, I guess
Right.
you would say. And then there's other areas where you can fund. There's certain types of annuity contracts that will give you, a 2 or 3 or 4 times leverage of what you dump into the contract to help pay for those long-term care services too.
Gotcha.
Which are a little bit easier on the underwriting side to get done. But it would certainly, to me, when we run the numbers too, it's always seems to be, especially I think the sweet spot of getting it is 50 to 60 years old. It's not as expensive as maybe you think it might be.
Right.
So I would just keep the mind open of looking into that, and that's certainly something that we all can do and run for you guys, and just so you have the numbers in your head.
Yeah, real quick, Cody, could you kind of explain to our clients how you look at when we're in that 50 to 60-year-old sweet spot and we're projecting in the future, I'll say possibility, which is more like a likelihood,
Right.
that we're going to need some type of covered services. How do you gauge based on the potential cost of that? We refer to confined, non-confined spouse. How do you look at, okay, what do we have to pay for it versus what's the shortage for life insurance? Or do you just say, let's insure the whole thing? How do you approach that?
Yeah, usually at some point when you hit that 60, 65 range, people are going into the retirement. They're usually their debts are less and less and less, or even gone at that point. So you're almost transitioning the cost of life insurance and disability insurance into that long-term care insurance. So they seem to match up pretty good from that standpoint. But yeah, to factor in the costs associated with it, the best thing we can do is look at the cost today and inflate that by like 5 or 6% a year,
Which is
that's
what
been
historical average has been.
historical average has been.
Right.
Certainly to try to insure for the whole cost, the $8 or $9 or $11,000 a
Right.
month, isn't going to be affordable. So you back into, okay, well, you'll have these Social Security income sources, out in any outside pensions, what assets you have today, and then that will help us back into the number, that shortfall that we need.
Okay, so you're looking at shortage. You're not really looking at the total cost that Kraig talked about.
Correct. Yeah, you're looking at the shortage.
Okay.
I don't want to run out of money is
Right.
basically what it essentially is. Okay, then that helps us figure out what kind of insurance need that we have.
Super. Excellent. Okay. Well, the kind of 3 keys. There are others, which I mentioned in the beginning. When we talk about defending your wealth, there's property protections, which we're not going to get into in detail, but we understand that. Protecting our home from loss or damage, our cars, there's liability issues running around all over the place. Back in the day when I used to watch the Three Stooges, the only people that advertised were attorneys. So nothing against attorneys. I love them, but if somebody stumbles and falls down and gets hurt on your property, you're liable for that. Frankly, to be really straightforward, you get in an accident, injure somebody or worse, that's on you. You got to be protected for that, or you're risking your entire overall financial well-being. Final thoughts from sobering stat boy.
Yeah, obviously not the happiest topic to talk about, but the good news is there are some cost-effective options out there to kind of check off some of these boxes so you can get covered, and most importantly, know your family's covered so you can, sleep well at night and know that you don't have to worry about these sobering statistics because your family's covered. So that'd be my biggest takeaway.
Super. All right, Mr. Sunshine, bring her home.
Yeah, we're in open enrollment period, so now's the time to, if you want to make those changes or add that in there, now's the time to do it because you won't be able to do it after your enrollment period's over. And like we said, it's usually the most cost effective. If you would like us to take a look at it and give advice and run some other numbers for you, we're always happy to do that too.
Super. Yeah, I guess I would just say in closing that, as you guys know, because we do a lot of work in it, and for our clients, defending your wealth is absolutely equally as important as creating it, building it, and we're here to help with that. So please forward this podcast to your friends, family, relatives. If they have any questions on really the aspect of defending their wealth, please reach out. Pick up the phone and call us, send us a text on the text line, email. Happy to have that conversation. Gentlemen, thank you. New nickname coming. We'll keep yours. Have a great, fantastic rest of October. Happy Halloween. I will have my light off, so don't come knocking on my door, but I won't be on the road because I think there's too much traffic. Got to keep those little ones safe. You guys got your costumes?
I don't have mine. We have to fix that.
Shame.
Yeah, we'll see him right now. My oldest says I'm going to be a pickle.
A pickle! I bet you would be a fantastic pickle. So thank you very much. Have a great month, and we'll see you in November.